being over 100 is that there's no peer pressure. He agrees wholeheartedly. Well, thank you very much, George. And are you from the area?
I am now.
Where did you grow up? Oh, the other end of the country. We've got an East Coaster here. So he knows the Atlantic, he knows the Pacific. Any advice for a young whippersnapper like me?
All the young people will follow in your footsteps.
Wow, that's relax, have a seat, my friend. You don't have to feel formal. He said that his advice and his hope is that all of the young people will follow in my footsteps. I hope that all of our young people will follow in his footsteps. You were born in 1923, because you're 102 years old, and some politicians do a little bit of math. It's going to be 103 April the... All right, everybody, big party April 5th. He's 6 years old, then the stock market crashes, lives through the entire Great Depression. Then he goes and fights a war, comes back, and that's just the beginning for that generation. You know what's incredible about that generation? They grew up starving, many in the dust bin. They fought their way and survived. Scrawny kids, not getting a full meal very often, getting through the Great Depression. They went over to Europe, some to Asia to fight the Second World War. They came back. And of course, Canada was massively in debt because it had borrowed to fight a war. And what did they get busy doing? Did they say, boy, I'm exhausted, I need a break, I need to relax? They went straight from the battlefields to the farm fields and factories. And you know, 2 years after the Second World War, the Canadian government ran the single biggest budget surplus in Canadian history, and they began paying off the war debts, so that by 1973, about 3 decades after the war, they paid off the entire debt that they had accumulated to fight the war, they tripled the size of the economy, and they handed the next generation the most prosperous and freest nation on earth. That's why we call them the greatest generation. Back in beautiful British Columbia. It's particularly nice to be here in spring. Where you guys don't get winter. I grew up in the prairies. That's a serious winter. And but of course I'm in Alberta, which means I'm not part of that alien species that invades your province. Every winter for your ski hills, every summer for your lakes and oceans. And we do spend a little bit of money here. A lot of my best memories as a child were coming here with my family. My mother and father would take us on road trips. And my mother is a very special lady. She could live off a coupon. She had the coupon books. You remember those books? That's how I became a fiscal conservative. She would drive clear across Calgary in order to buy a beef on a bun that was 50% off from one of her little coupons. And my parents took me out to the Okanagan when I was about, 9 or 10 years old. Anybody from the Okanagan here? Yeah, a great place. And they had just invented the jet skis. And so I got to the edge of the water after we were pitched our tent, and I saw these kids tearing around on a jet ski. I went back to my dad and I said, I need to rent one of these jet skis. So he checked the price and he said, well, we're not going to do that, but we'll rent you one of these little yellow paddle boats instead. Because it's only $5 an hour for that. And so, you know, I grudgingly took that thing out onto the water, and the rich kids came back with their jet ski. And they started circling me and making fun of me as I was pedaling around. So I went back in a puddle of tears to my father and I said, why can't I have a jet ski like that? He said, you can. Because as soon as you get old enough to get a job, you can save up the money and we'll lend you our Chevy Lumina. You can drive out to BC on your own with gas that you put in the tank. And you can rent yourself a little space to pop up a tent. then you can have a jet ski. So the answer is yes. Simple rule. You work hard, you get stuff. Right? Nothing's free in this world. Those are the values that my parents taught me. Those are the values that Jeff Kimmel, your incredible member of Parliament, fights for every day. When I was young, though, I remember we had some tough times. My folks were teachers. They times struggled a little bit. But we always felt a sense of hope that there was a deal in this country. You work hard, you get a great life, you live on a safe street, you get meat and potatoes on the dinner table, you can own a house in your 20s and pay off your mortgage by the time you're in your 40s, have a worry-free retirement. That was the promise this country made every single person. It's the promise for which George and so many other soldiers fought. It was the deal. But after 10 years of NDP Liberal government, that deal is broken. Look around you, as Jeff pointed out. People can't afford to live anymore. Food prices have skyrocketed. In fact, this year, it's estimated by Dalhousie University it will cost $17,600 to feed a family of four. That's $1,000 more than last year. There are 2.2 million people lined up in food banks. This is 100% more than 10 years ago. In other words, we've doubled the number of people relying on food banks. Food banks, in fact, are literally running out of food. A recent survey showed that about 25% of kids, university-age kids, are actually skipping meals now because they can't afford to eat. And of course, homeownership is completely out of reach. About 80% of young people who don't own a home believe they never will. No home means they will never be able to build up home equity or start a family, stuck in their parents' basements, 400 square foot condos where the rent keeps rising and rising. This is just an example of the broken promise. But what's worse is the hopelessness that's spilling onto our streets with rampant crime, criminality, and drug overdoses enabled by NDP Liberal policies that have unleashed chaos on our streets. My friends, the good news is life was not like this before the NDP Liberals, and it won't be like this after they're gone. Restore the promise of this country that hard work gets you a great life, affordable food and homes, safe streets to live on. That's why Jeff has put together this incredible town hall meeting today to talk about our plans to make our lives affordable. In fact, let's make this the most affordable and safest place anywhere on earth. That's it sounds like hyperbole, but I think it's a very reasonable expectation. In fact, Canada should be a dirt cheap place to live. Why? We got the most dirt. Seriously. The most dirt on which to build homes, on which to grow food, and from which to draw resources like the gas we put in our cars. Because we have the most natural advantage, it should be actually the most affordable place anywhere in the world. So why is it so expensive? In order to cure the disease, you have to diagnose it. What caused the price and the cost of everything? Got some good answers over there. And actually, those answers are true. Let me point out something here. The truth is, the cost of things is not going up. The value of our money is going down. That's the reality. They're destroying our money with these massive money printing deficits. They flood our economy with more and more cash, which spits up the goods we buy and the services that we need. Let me give you a fun statistic out of I'll quote the Globe and Mail, forgive me. The Globe and Mail had this incredible story where they said, in 1981, the average house in Canada cost 4.5 kilograms of gold. You know how much it costs today? 4.5 kilograms of gold. And yet, the price in dollars has roughly quadrupled. So in other words, it's the money that's the problem. You look at the fact that we grow our money supply by 7% a year, and our housing supply 1.5%. So we're growing the amount of cash in the economy, about 4 times faster than we grow the houses that money buys. And so ultimately, it's a monetary phenomenon. Government printing money to pay its bills, but that floods the economy with all that cash, bids up food, houses, gas, and everything else. That is why when you see Mark Carney doubling the size of the deficit, the reality is he's not just putting a burden on future generations. He's not just risking our social programs down the road. In the present, he's driving up the cost of everything we buy. He's printing money today, which is an inflation tax on our people. The inflation tax is the worst tax because, 1, nobody votes on it in the House of Commons. 2, it targets the poorest people because they don't have the ability to buy inflation-proof assets to protect themselves against the diminishing value of the dollar. It is a direct attack on the paychecks and pensions of working-class people. It is a transfer of wealth from the have-nots to the have-yots. We have to reverse this policy. We have to cut back on consultants, bureaucracy, foreign aid.
Is that including to Quebec?
Everybody home for our people. We need it here.
Yeah.
Charity starts at home. We have to cut back on the handouts to fake and phony refugees that are taking advantage of corporate welfare. These big fat checks we give multinational corporations who take our jobs out of our country. Business is supposed to make money. Multinational corporations should not be taking our money. Cut the corporate welfare. Let's bring down the cost of government so that we can bring down the cost of living for our working families. The cost of all, by far, the biggest item in your family budget is government. Taxes make up more expense for a family in Canada today than food, clothing, and shelter combined. We must reduce the tax burden, cut income taxes, so the hard work pays off. Cut taxes on energy so that we can power our economy. Cut taxes on home building so we can build more affordable homes. And cut taxes, all the hidden taxes they don't tell you about that apply to farmers and food processors and then ultimately apply at the grocery store. Our approach for lower costs means bringing down taxes and inflationary deficits so your dollar goes further and your hard work pays off.